Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Crypto Marketing Insights. I wanted to bring your attention today to some very interesting happenings in the world of cryptocurrency and on the blockchain, specifically regarding the marketing angle. So, hey everybody, just remember, this is not financial advice, this is not a financial show. I'm not here to tell you about your finances or to sell you anything financial. I'm just here for entertainment for myself. Hope you enjoy it. Of course, do your own research if you're investing in anything, but I really don't care about what you're investing in because I talk about marketing here. We're talking about marketing and the blockchain and crypto. So without further ados, here we go. Look at this. Crypto has now over 2,100 cryptocurrencies listed on CoinMarketCap. Okay then, that's a lot. Look at that. Yesterday all the coins took a big dump. It was kind of expected. Binance coin, of course, defied the odds and is now at 13 and a quarter. Bitcoin, meanwhile, is down at 37.68. It was slightly lower than that earlier in the day. I think it was in the 36s. But anyway, 36, 37, you know, it's cheap relatively to where it's been. And like I've said before, overall, the marketing angle of the marketing arc of cryptocurrency is, right now sort of switching gears mode. Everything is in the middle of switching gears. We're going from a really hefty bear market into a switching gears mode, and probably, I would say, within 3, 4, 5, 6 months, at some point this year, we will have confirmation that the upcycle is happening again, and that we'll start, noticing that when we notice more active marketing campaigns, which I can tell you they are happening, right? There's certainly more people buzzing around now that we're in the end of the first quarter here. I remember there's a lot of things that are supposed to have happened this quarter. Some did, many didn't in the crypto sphere. Right? We knew that there was a chance we'd get ETFs, and of course it didn't happen. I don't really think that matters so much, but it is part of the story, whether you like it or not. We did expect some other developments in Ethereum to happen. They got delayed, and then eventually they happened, and it was not so much fanfare, and basically it wasn't done well, right? Instead of building the hype and then getting the maximum out of it, they built the hype, let everybody down, then they did it again, and then it seems like, I think they did it 2 or 3 times, I don't even know how often it happened, but it was like false start, false start, false start. When you have so many false starts, people really start to doubt whether or not you're for real, whether or not you are. And I like Ethereum. I think it's a great idea. A grand global computer for the internet, right? In order to be able to do smart contracts, right? Okay, it's kind of a neat idea. I mean, I wouldn't want one grand computer for all the smart contracts, but it's nice to have one that does work, if in theory it will do what it's supposed to at some point. Of course, it does work in the sense that you can, right now, use Ethereum contracts to do many things. And the problem is adoption and everything else. And there's obviously, from a technical perspective, there's sharding and there's Casper and all those other, buzzwords you might have heard if you're listening to Ethereum news at all. Even if you're not an Ethereum developer, those are things you might have heard, right? And those are important because those will allow Ethereum, basically, to do things it can't currently do. They're sort of vital to getting a larger sense of mass adoption for the system, right? And it's important because you want to be able to have a system that's faster and able to scale in some way, from a marketing perspective. You want to be able to serve more customers actively, and that comes with having faster transactions per second confirmation and all this other kind of stuff that you might be able to do, hopefully, if the tech delivers, right? So that's what we're all sort of counting on, those of us who are not developing the tech itself, right? Our tech team here in our company is developing, as you know, crypto, and you may be aware of some of the projects we're doing, but for those who are not in the tech side, you kind of have to, you're hoping and waiting that the techies are doing what you're supposed to do, especially now during this part of the bear market where they should have been pushing forward the last, year or so while everything was going down price value wise. That's the perfect time to focus on getting the tech done, right? So we've been saying on and on, this is the time to build. This is the time to build. So if you're in marketing, this is also the time to build. Prepare your systems, get the word out, send messages, keep your community, build the community, keep it active. Even if they're starting to dwindle, remind them of what it is every once in a while. Remind them every day or every week or every month what it is that you're bringing to them of value. Keep giving them things of value, right? That's how you remind them. You don't just tell them, hey, we're bringing you things of value. Actually, just keep delivering value. Even if you don't have a big shiny lollipop to sell them today, right? Bring them something of value. Send them a useful email. Prepare a useful series for them of information that they can make the most out of, right? That you know is of interest to them because they're interested in your product, right? So keep that in mind. That's ways that the story arc of cryptocurrency and the blockchain in general will rise, right? After being in such a long bear market. It's not going to sit like this forever, and you should be aware of that. There's apparently... Okay, so I don't know if you guys can hear me. Stream warning signals all over the place from YouTube. Lights flashing, buttons popping. I hope everything's working. I really do. But as always, the description and the links to everything will be in the description below. So if you miss any part of what we're saying here and you want to, track what we're looking at, that'll be real easy for you. Just read below. Okay, so today I actually want to talk to you guys really about one main story. And you might have heard about this story already. It is the story that Coinbase has essentially fired its hacking team, right? So, for those of you who know Coinbase, right, possibly the biggest exchange in terms of number of customers, not the biggest in terms of trading volume and all that, but it's still, the largest, at least US-based exchange. Has like 26 million or maybe more customers. That's a lot of people for them to have. And turns out, okay, there's this whole big crazy week they've had. Among other things, let's see what happened. Coinbase listed XRP. Kind of the wrong, not the best timing in terms of their announcement, and that could be for a number of reasons, including it could have been done on purpose, for a number of other reasons. But before we get into that, again, this article here is from TechCrunch, and the headline is Neutrino employees who once worked for a controversial surveillance tech company will leave Coinbase. Okay. Now, it turns out that about last week, it was revealed that Coinbase, well, it was known a while ago, but it was revealed that Coinbase had not only acquired this company, Neutrino, but that the Neutrino founders were also related to, they had worked previously for a company called Hacking Team, right? And that they were brought on through the acquisition of Neutrino, they were brought on to be employees of Coinbase. And Coinbase, had acquired this company, Neutrino, because they focus, right? They were looking at mapping transactions and looking at ways to enforce tracking and stolen digital assets and investigate ransomware. They're like basically kind of used as an intelligence arm to monitor any kind of bad activities, right? So it's kind of interesting. They were a company that had previously worked as a hacking team that were providing offensive surveillance and offensive intelligence services to really bad actors, right? We're talking Russia, Saudi Arabia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Venezuela, Sudan, Turkey, the list goes on. Countries that have really bad record, even Mexico, which, by the way, does not have a great record on human rights, yeah? And they also were a client, and many other countries. In fact, their client database was released on the web. You can find that very easily if you just Google it. You can see all their email addresses and IP numbers and who they work for and the whole deal, names of people who were clients. And it's kind of a shocking list. But not that shocking, because there's obviously going to be companies that provide services to bad guys, right? And of course, that's part of the world, right? Everyone sees it, political stuff from different perspectives, so they can always justify selling to anyone that they want. That's just part of the world we live in, as ugly as it is. But in revealing that they've acquired Neutrino for this bizarre sort of play the opposite role that they've always played kind of thing, like they're providing offensive material and now they have to provide defensive material for Coinbase, right? They have to shift gears and protect customers as opposed to attack individuals. And instead of being called enemies of the internet, by Reporters Without Frontiers. They now have to be called, or they were trying to be called, like, guardians or whatever, or protectors or something of consumers, which is very ironic and hilarious, except that it's not funny. But it is hilarious from a comic standpoint. Like in a movie, you wrote that in a movie, it would get you laughs, sell tickets, the whole deal. But you say that stuff is reality, and you realize these people are actually really bad actors. They worked with the team from Saudi Arabia that was responsible for killing Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Post reporter, right, from Saudi Arabia, when he was visiting the Saudi embassy in Turkey. So these guys have serviced really bad people. Like they worked directly with the people that chopped up Khashoggi's body, right? That's who Coinbase hired. Coinbase, right? And again, I'm not anti-Coinbase. I've spoken about them before. I think they're extremely useful for on-ramping a lot of people to the crypto world. They've done a great job of that. They've done a worse and worse job of it over the past, let's say, year or two, where they've just made it apparent that they aren't, nearly as nimble as, let's say, Binance or KuCoin or IDEX or a lot of these other exchanges. Coinbase claims that they do it for quality assurance, which is very ironic, don't you think? So they're concerned about quality assurance for the customer's sake, so that you, the customer, would have a good experience on Coinbase. Now, okay, so if they're concerned about customers, and if they're concerned that the customers are having the best time and are protected and everything else, then riddle me this. Why is it that Coinbase has current vendors selling customer data to outside companies? And I don't mean Neutrino and the hacking team. What? Yes. The reason that they acquired Neutrino, among other things, it was actually revealed not in a press release or anything else like that, but by Christine Sandler, who was the head of sales, who was speaking to Cheddar. So if you go look up Cheddar, they had a special interview with her. It's like a 2-minute clip of her answering a couple of questions about XRP and the Neutrino acquisition. And then off the cuff, when she was asked, what do you think about the backlash from Neutrino? She literally off the cuff just said that, the reason that we acquired Neutrino was in order to be able to deliver better customer experience, right? And at the same time, like I'm paraphrasing here, at the same time, they wanted to replace an existing vendor who has been selling customer data to outside companies. And they wanted to get control of that situation. She did not specify which customers' data had been stolen. She did not specify how many customers' data have been sold. She did not specify whether this was done in accordance to their agreement, like it's okay, or in breach, or some other thing. Nothing was specified about that, but it set off a huge, massive time bomb, right? That blew up in their face same day. And was that skillfully done to distract everybody? Right? Did they announce the Neutrino thing on the heels of the sort of mealy-mouthed XRP listing? In all of that, in order to cover up the fact by showing it in public, which is a very common tactic that goes back to, well, a long, long time, but famously Bill Clinton's used it. Donald Trump uses it. These are very well-practiced methods. Air your dirty laundry right on camera as part of your normal conversation, and no one will think anything of it. They'll just let you say it and get away with it. Like the interviewer, will just normally just not even follow up, because most interviewers are too stuck on the questions they've written down before to actually be listening and actually properly follow up. A lot, some reporters, obviously the best ones do. I'm not talking about the good ones. But there's a lot of average or below average reporters, just like there are in any field, average or below average of anything else. And not every reporter will catch that kind of comment and say, hey, wait a minute, what are you talking about? You released your customer data to some vendor that then sold it. Like, what kind of vendors what information are you selling about your customers? That's a huge scandal, right? It's enormous. It's way bigger than the fact that Coinbase legally acquired a team of ne'er-do-wells, okay? But they made a press release about the acquisition of the ne'er-do-wells, and in the end, they got rid of them. So there is no real long-lasting harm done there, because Neutrino never really started much, or if they did, it was very short-lived, and they're already out. So hopefully Neutrino, which is comprised of a bunch of hackers, hopefully they will not have hacked all of Coinbase from the inside and keep their access to all of Coinbase and all of your customer records, but there's no guarantee of that. And again, even if they didn't do anything with anybody's records or information, right, those Neutrino guys who were a hacking team and who are now leaving Coinbase, even if they did nothing wrong while at Coinbase, which is a possibility, let's just give them a benefit of the doubt on that. Again, why was that entire process revealed and then shut down so noisily, while in the middle of all of that was this one little dangling sentence, right, by Christine Sandler, who just said off the cuff, "Oh yeah, we had a customer that was selling customer data. We had a vendor selling customer data to other customers." I mean, it's a brilliant cover-up. Okay. Oh yeah. By the way, here is the. I guess I'll post this for you because why not? The Hacking Team client list. You should definitely see a copy of it. It's right here. It's real easy. I mean, I could just as easily let you Google it, but whatever. You can find it on securitiesApp.com. Hacking Team client list. Again, why did Christine Sandler let slip the fact that they have been selling? Well, one of their vendors has been selling their data. Like that, if you think that wasn't a mistake, all I can say is, all right, maybe it was a mistake, but she doesn't seem like she's senile. She doesn't seem like she has any kind of, mental disease that would cause her to say something she didn't mean to say. Okay? Could it have been a mistake, a simple slip of the tongue? Yes, those happen to people who are perfectly mentally healthy all the time. That is true. If you're having a slip of the tongue like that, and you're the head of sales, if you're suddenly, off the cuff revealing that the one thing you're not supposed to do, selling your customer data to outside vendors without prior approval, like express prior consent each time, maybe you haven't read, excuse me, maybe you haven't read the terms of service on Coinbase. Maybe now's the time you should. But yeah, if you think that it's normal for people to be, selling customer data to outside companies when you are Coinbase, one of the most significant crypto exchanges in the world, I don't know if the average person would agree with you that that's okay for them to do. I think that even if that's in your terms of service buried away somewhere, you still might end up in hot water for that because you're selling people's private data, financial data, right? And maybe that's what they signed up for. Maybe that is what we signed up for. Have you read the terms of service, right? That's a good question. Ask yourself that. Why are you signing up to things without reading the terms of service? Well, we all do it, right? Who sits around and reads every terms of service, right? There was some research done on that. And it turns out the terms of service are there, obviously, just to cover the company's butt when there's liability issues, because it turns out basically no one reads them, right? Even people that work for the companies that they are, using the products of, like Apple employees don't always read the Apple terms of service, right? Facebook employees don't always read the Facebook terms of service. I mean, they're supposed to. I'm sure they get quizzed on it when they get hired or whatever. But yeah, they don't. They don't memorize that stuff, and they certainly don't remember it. And people who don't work there for sure don't read all the terms of service, because how can you read something that's whatever they are, however many pages they are on usual in a few, in a matter of a second, the time it takes you to scroll down and hit the I accept button. Right? People just don't read those things very much. They just kind of, at best, they just kind of skim over them. And they just assume that they're safe because, well, hey, billions of other people have signed up to this. It's got to be okay, right? Well, it turns out for a lot of people, it's not okay. And that's all part of the marketing, right? Aspect of Coinbase. Like their terms of service, you probably should read them if you're using them. That's my guess. And again, Coinbase is very smart. They know what they're doing. They did not accidentally buy Neutrino, list XR, have all those people in positions that they were hired for to do, some kind of surveillance monitoring work. List XRP that same week that they had to announce all the bad news that Neutrino contained all these employees from hacking team, right? And then off the cuff mention, oh yeah, we have another vendor who's been selling customer data. Do you really think all of those things happened without any forethought? No. I mean, that's from a marketing perspective, all of those ingredients would have been salient to any strategy. Those would have been salient points to any marketing strategy they could have executed, right? Whether it was, how do we get XRP listed on Coinbase Pro and then Coinbase without upsetting all the anti-XRP people and without making too much of a big deal that people will accuse us of pumping it? How do we get it on there smoothly without shaking the boat too much at a time when we are in shifting gears in the market? No one really knows which way the coins are going to go up or down in the next particular days or weeks. Long term, you might think it's going to go one way or the other, but day to day, you can never predict the time of the market, so to speak, right? So how do they onboard XRP in a way that doesn't shatter the market for XRP or any other crypto, even if it goes up or down a few points or whatever? Doesn't shatter the market. And at the same time, how do we announce that this team that was doing all this really aggressive Intel software, computer hacking stuff, is now working for us and is supposedly they're going to switch gears, and instead of being aggressive, anti-free speech kind of people, they're now going to protect consumers from fraud. Right? And then how do we also mention and get away with it the fact that an existing vendor has been, and obviously it was revealed, so this means it was not explained to you in the terms of service that there was a company already selling your data. The legalese might leave it to question whether or not it was allowable, but it certainly wasn't revealed previously that there was an actual company doing this. How do you think that all happened? You think that didn't have a meeting before it happened? Really? You think they didn't order some sandwiches in order to have that discussion? You think the secretary there didn't have to call catering at least once or twice and have a bunch of people sit in a room and discuss the possibility of what are they going to do when all these things kind of happen towards the same time, happen to come out? Come on. If you work in any company, right, that has like any legit size of employees, especially in a tech company, if you work in any company that's more than, 50, 100 employees, and you think they don't sit around and discuss this kind of stuff at the higher levels of management, and if you're talking about a company with thousands of employees that's managing tens of millions of customer records, you think they don't have meetings like this at Coinbase and discuss exactly what the head of sales is going to say, practically frame by frame, on the Cheddar news show? Which is, by the way, conveniently, it was a show about women in business. Now, the reason I say that is because, and also the colors of the show, very cheddary, all pink and yellow and light and pastel-y. You think that was an accident? That they revealed that they've let one of their vendors sell customer data unspecified to outside vendors and companies, also unspecified, for an unspecified number of time? You think they went on a softball show like Shed Her, which is a special show on the Cheddar channel, which focuses on women in business with all the fancy pastel colors and pink colors? You think that happened? A softball show to slip that one through by accident? Really? You think their marketing is that bad? I don't. Okay, Coinbase knows marketing extremely well, and Christine Sandler knows sales extremely well. And she knows perfectly well how to sell a scandal to make it seem like your average daily pastiche of nothing special. Right? That was perfectly well executed PR. Put the salesperson on it. Don't put the PR person on the message. The PR person will come across as being the PR person trying to spin a message because that is their job. Put the salesperson on it to, quote unquote, accidentally slip the scandal. And then it just goes away. How do you make it go away? Well, you don't even allow the time to pass for people to bring it up too much. Like, yes, a lot of shows jumped on it. Yes, many YouTube shows and news articles jumped on the fact that they had been doing this. But within one news cycle, right, Brian Armstrong comes along, and the CEO of Coinbase, and goes off on Twitter to explain what happened, why they hired Neutrino, and that before hiring Neutrino, what their purpose was, and that in hiring Neutrino there was a gap in diligence by Coinbase, and that they were considering all these things that the hacking team could do, and it wasn't an easy decision, but in the end they had to let them go, and they're grateful for Neutrino for engaging with us on this outcome. Whatever that means. Engaging with you. What does that mean? They accepted your letter of firing them? What does that mean? They accepted the bonus you gave them to go away quietly? I don't know. What is it? Right? Come on. What exactly did Coinbase do with all this noise? Brian Armstrong covered up the entire scandal by completely and deftly avoiding any discussion of it because Christine Sandler had brilliantly addressed 3 scandals in one 30-second answer. Well, it was a 2-minute interview, let's say, or it was a longer interview with a 2-minute clip of it, where she mentions these 3 topics, right? XRP, Neutrino, and the fact that they were selling through another vendor of theirs their own customer data to other companies. 3 things in a 2-minute package, of which 30 seconds contains the last 2 parts. The reason they bought Neutrino and the customer data being sold. So now you've got those 3 scandals, 1 2-minute clip, of which 2 of them are addressed in 30 seconds. In one answer by Christine Sandler at the end of that clip. And the outcome of that is the confusion of the average person reading the story or watching the video has no idea what the hell's going on. What do you mean? There's 3 scandals going on and they're all separate but related but not? What? Yeah. This is called how you flood the market with more and more bad news in order to not have people focus on each of them. Make one big ugly dump. The first thing people want to do is clean it up, have someone clean it up and let them move on with their life. They don't want to pay attention. Nobody wants to see more bad news. So if you can package up all the scandals in one little package and dump it all out there, right? And they're learning from the best. These are the politicians who've been running or ruining countries for years and decades. They're learning from the best, right? Hacking team knew all about that kind of stuff with their clients. And all you have to do is turn on the news today on any news channel or newspaper or whatever, and you can see perfect examples of somebody who lives in the White House who lies like 15 times a day in public. I mean, some outrageous number. He far and away exceeds previous presidents in terms of volume and frequency of lying, and capacity, just unbelievable. But hey, he's not the first president to lie. I mean, we know that, sure, obviously. Nixon, Reagan, and Clinton and Bush, and there's a whole bunch of liars and presidents, right? Okay, we get it. So they're seeing perfect examples from these serious political leaders, and they're just applying the same lesson. They're just applying the same method. Like, don't hate the player, hate the game, they always say, right? That's an expression you hear commonly, I guess. But maybe you don't. But it is a common expression these days. So, again, brilliant PR execution by Coinbase. Whether you love them or hate them, it's brilliant. It's brilliant PR. You can't argue that. They've done an amazing job of not just building the size of their company and their customer base over the years, They've also done a brilliant job in terms of covering up scandals. Delaying XRP's listing by God knows how long because of whatever internal politics. Delaying the announcement of Neutrino and hacking teams' sort of nefarious parts and discussing it kind of publicly until they were ready to figure out a way to use it, or to use it as the excuse to drive away any criticism or distract people further from the other grand revelation, which again is Coinbase has been selling its customer data. And you can say, well, no, it's a vendor of Coinbase that sold it. That means it's Coinbase. Okay, they have an agreement, and that means that Coinbase allowed that customer data to get sold by that vendor. If there was no agreement with that vendor, if that vendor hadn't been working with Coinbase's customers would not have been sold by that vendor, right? It is Coinbase's fault. They may not have to hang for it, but it is their fault that they allowed an outside vendor to take and sell their data to other companies. Right? So they have brilliantly covered up an epic fail of dramatic, gigantic proportions that should otherwise bring down their company. Or at the very least, it should cause the top heads to roll, right? Why would you want the same management who let that happen to stay on in that role? Maybe it's time for them to go do something else or go reflect for a while and then go get another job or something or come up with some other brilliant idea to invent. But allowing the leadership to stay in that position happens because they have a brilliant PR maneuver in place. And until anyone else brings up that whole customer's thing got sold, right? Maybe it will, and after another cycle or two, maybe people will start to say, hey, like what I'm doing on this show, they'll say, hey, wait a minute. You just covered up an enormous scandal by dumping it out and now trying to distract us by using Neutrino as your excuse to talk about that and not the customer data sales. The customer data sales is the real scandal. All of the other stuff, listing XRP at a particular time, they could have waited 2 more weeks or 3 more weeks. They could have waited till this whole thing blew over. They could have also listed them a year ago when they should have. Right? But they didn't for political reasons. That's common knowledge in the marketing world, right? Maybe we're all wrong, but that is common knowledge in the space of crypto marketing, right? And they could have waited. They could have also waited to talk about Neutrino and hacking team and this whole debacle, or they could have done it properly when they made the PR, or they could have done their proper due diligence and never brought them in the first place. Or, more likely, they did all that due diligence and they hired them for the purpose of firing them when they would reveal that they've been allowing one of their vendors to sell customer data. Right? It's perfect. Oh, we made a mistake, but we got rid of the mistake now. By the way, we made another mistake, but we haven't fixed that one yet. Right? They still, right now, if you're trading on Coinbase, right now, for all you know, your customer data is being sold again right now to another vendor. And there's really not much you can do once it's been sold to even one. And can you even find out if your data has been sold? None of that has been answered. And what can you do about it? How can they guarantee they would ever get that back? They can't. It's out. It's gone. If they sold it to even one company, and they have, you have no idea how many companies might have bought it from that other company, right? Or stolen it, or borrowed it, or copied it, or been given it, or just accepted it, right? Who knows? You don't know. How many individuals are out there who now have a copy of this thing on their hard drives and who can call up the worst actors in the world and tell some of the worst governments on earth, hey, this information, is available. And they don't have to be people who worked for a company like Hacking Team. Right? That's completely unrelated. The other vendor that Coinbase worked with sold it to other people. Those other people who have copies of it now, whoever they are. Doesn't matter if they're hackers or not. They can just pick up the phone, call the Saudi embassy or the whoever embassy or whatever, and do horrible things with that information. for money. And who's to say they won't? You just trust them? You think people have a good heart? That they care about your health and wealth and happiness? You don't think that they'll take, for a massive profit, the chance to make so many millions or more, well, millions I'm sure, by selling massive, important, confidential consumer data to very dictatorial regimes? Information about tens of millions of Americans? You don't think that any other regime wants that information? You don't think they'd be willing to pay $1 million or 10 million or 100 million for that information? Really? I know they would, because guess what? This happens a lot, right? People sell confidential information illicitly all the time. So, for anyone to think that this was an accident, if you really think this was an accident, you don't understand crypto marketing so well. And I absolutely suggest you take a good look at the facts. Question everything I'm saying, that's for sure. Don't follow whatever anyone is saying blindly. Certainly not just somebody on the internet. But look at what I'm saying. Look at the links that I'm posting. Look at the articles that we're covering. I'm not even asking you to connect dots. Go see the video on Cheddar. Right? Just YouTube. It was posted, I saw it on Blockchain After Dark. It was on Blockchain After Dark. You could see it. There was a review there. I saw it on, well, it was there. It was on a bunch of channels. Just YouTube, Cheddar, Coinbase, Christine Sandler, or Google it. Right? And you'll see the video on the Cheddar channel itself. There's nothing. The point is that it's not a hidden conspiracy theory. It's an out in the open scandal. They've aired their dirty laundry, and they're trying to run away from the damage it will cause by just, they blew up the bomb and ran. That's basically what they've done, right? You just set it off right there, and on Sunday morning in Times Square or whatever, made the big noise and ran away from it, and let everybody, all the gawkers, look on and say, what? And be distracted by all the chaos and confusion, and then let that one go away. That's what they're hoping for. Well, we're not going to let that one go away because we think it's an interesting story from a marketing perspective. Even, forget the investigative journalist aspect. From a marketing perspective, it is fascinating to look at how Coinbase will continue to develop its marketing strategy, and at what point will they be forced to actually get rid of this vendor who's selling your data if you're a customer, right? Who's selling their customer data. We don't know anything about that. All we know is it was said, released, and it's gone. For sure the biggest scandal of the year in crypto. And no word about it after that slip. That was no slip of the tongue. So, well, there you go, folks. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to keep it to that. I know I've been talking a long time about this today, and, well, thank you for listening. I wanted to just make sure I didn't let this go, the way of the dinosaur and let it die off in the wind without saying something about it, because I think it's significant, and to ignore it would be bad. So thanks again for listening and watching. And I remind you, if you're watching us on YouTube, that's great. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you'll get updates about whenever we post a new video. And you can keep tabs on us that way, so you can always, stay up to date on what's going on with marketing in crypto and in the digital ecosystem, wherever it is that you market, as well as offline marketing, because we love to do that. And for those who don't want to support us by crypto, but do want to support us some other ways, because you might not have crypto available to you or something, but you're interested in supporting us, well, we don't accept support in any kind of charitable way, because we're not a charity. But what we do is we will allow you to support us on Patreon in exchange for a number of things. So you can get your name read out in the video, or you can have your name listed in the description. There's all kinds of wonderful little benefits. We set up this Patreon page actually for an entirely different reason, but it is there. So if anybody ever wants to join it, you're certainly welcome to doing that. Check it out. Links in the description. But again, most important, there is absolutely no obligation to do that. Like, you're welcome here. We do this for free. We put out these videos because we want to make sure you know what's going on in marketing, because how else are you going to stay on top of everything when you're busy with your regular 9-to-5 job? Like, we get it. Not everybody has time to stay on top of marketing and crypto marketing and all kinds of the latest innovations in marketing, whether it's AI marketing or deep learning or whatever it is you're doing with marketing, SEO stuff or social media marketing, any kind of email marketing, I don't care. If you're involved in marketing and you want to be up to date, it's practically impossible to do that, after hours, right? If you're an entrepreneur or something running a separate business, or if you're just really busy at your job, or you're doing both, you don't have time to scour the whole web and everything else. So that's what we do here for you. Maybe you do have time. Good for you. That's great. But I can tell you, most of the people that message us, they tell us that they don't. And that's why we do what we do, to keep on top of the big stories that matter and the big marketing tactics and strategies that are in motion, so we can learn from them from a practical point of view and apply them in our own, marketing efforts, and continue to see tremendous results year after year, which is what we've been doing for decades. So thanks again for tuning in. Be sure you leave a comment or share or like or whatever you feel like, if you think this is deserving of it. And if not, that's fine. If you want to give us a thumbs down, that's fine too. If you have some negative criticisms to write, that's okay. No problem. I just hope you like it and that you enjoy the ability to make all those comments one way or the other and share what you think, because that matters. It gives us a sense of what we're doing right and wrong and how to improve and everything else. So please be critically honest with your commentary. And on that note, folks, until next time, take care.